there, Tyler. Hope your move is going well. This is your video lesson. I think we have this one and then one more. I'm going to talk about two things today, and then I'll wrap things up with next week, and then you'll be off to your next adventure. So what I was doing there at the beginning of this video was what I'm going to talk about today. I was using the E minor pentatonic scale in a way to create some solo lines and get used to playing lead guitar. Even though I have the scale, some notes are better to land on than others. All those notes are going to be okay to land on, but like I said, some are going to give you a much more final kind of landing spot than some of the other notes. And to find these notes, well, I'm going to just clean tune real quick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the magic triangle. The magic triangle allows us to find notes quickly on the guitar once we know the notes on the 5th and the 6th string. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to my 6th string, I'm going to call that root 6 because that's where my 6th string notes live, and I'm going to find the note E right there. If I go down 2 strings and over 2 frets and play that note there, that is also an E. So I got my E right here, and I go down 2 strings over 2 frets, that's an E right there. Since this string here is E and this one's here, those are the same exact note. So on the 6th string that's E, on the 1st string that's an E. So if I put all that together, E, down 2 strings over 2 frets, again E there, and then go to my 1st string on the 12th fret, those are all E notes. And if you're soloing over top of an E minor backing track or playing a song that's in E minor and you're going to take a lead on it, well, chances are you're going to want to land on the home bass note. That's what gives a good solo its what I call melodic gravity. Everything wants to pull back towards that note. And if you do solo lines where you just kind of like land on whatever, right? You're not going to have that final sound to it. And this will also train your ear to hear root notes as well too. So what I'd like you to do is play the E minor pentatonic scale. Make sure you get that all good to go. And remember that 3-note sequence I showed you? I think I showed you that last time. And then I eventually come across that E right there, and that's a great landing spot. So when I play with that backtrack, that gives it a nice final statement there. See, it sounds like it went somewhere. And then that's how you get out of playing just random patterns inside of the scale box. So you treat the scale as like a pool of notes, and you aim for a certain one, in this case being the E right here. That's the first thing I would do. Second thing is going into power chords. Right, we talked about that last time you were in here, but just because we're running short on time, and I'll make sure I go over this before we part ways, is that what you want to do is you want to start training your bar finger. That's this stuff right here. You might have seen some videos where people have laid their finger across the 6 strings. This is how you start that. What you do is you take your pointer finger and you do a semicircle, right? Or so you do a circle. A semicircle is a circle. And what you do is you bow your first fingertip in, right? So you're here like this, and then you bow that finger in. I call it a pyramid finger because it looks like a pyramid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that pyramid and bring it over to the fretboard of the guitar, and I'm going to put that across right here on string 5 and 6 on the 2nd fret. I have this tabbed out for you. This is E5. So I put that finger on there, got my thumb on the back, I place my finger across that string, those strings right there, strings 5, string 4. You're going to bump the other strings, that's totally fine. And then you're going to be pointing back at your face, like this right here. And what you want to do is hit those bottom 3 strings, right? And you got yourself an open power chord. These are very common in rock music, so that's why it's worth talking about. I put a little distortion there, it sounds like this. Right, just like that. Next one you're going to want to learn how to do is the A5. It's the same thing, that pyramid finger. You bring it onto the face of the guitar. This I'm going to be on strings 4 and 3. I'm going to hit the string 6, 5, 4. Remember, I'm pointing back at myself. So you got my A5 right there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my G chord that I usually have. I'm going to take my first finger off. This is string finger 2, finger 3, and finger 4. I guess this is in the handout right here. Right? and then I'm going to go to a D5, an open power chord D5. I'm going to shape it the same way I normally do my D chord, but I'm going to take my middle finger off, and then I'm going to roll my finger down a little bit, and I'm going to bump that first string. And that gives me my D5. So where to actually use this? Well, I'll talk about next time is this song here. We have... Right, so Highway to Hell by AC/DC uses these chords, use these chords right here. Bar chord drill that I'll talk about next time, so don't worry about that chord today. Right? And right, but I'll go over that song next time. So get those chords down, work on targeting that note E inside E minor pentatonic box, and if everything goes well, I'll see you the same time next time. Take care.